New Nordic.
Authorities are piecing together the movements of the suspect leading up to the New Year's attack in New Orleans.
Not only did Shamsuddin Jabbar visit New Orleans twice before running down and killing 14 people on Bourbon Street, he made trips to Egypt and Canada in 2023. FBI Special Agent Lionel Murthel.
Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with.
And to learn whether Jabbar, who had proclaimed his support for ISIS, was radicalized during his foreign trips.
ABC's Jim Ryan reporting. A new cybersecurity effort from the Biden administration focusing on smart devices at home.
The Biden administration is now fully launching its labeling program for smart electronics and appliances to help Americans know what internet-connected devices are cyber secure. The U.S. Cyber Trust Mark will soon be on approved connected devices, including baby monitors, fitness trackers, virtual assistants, and home security cameras. It's a voluntary program. Companies can soon submit products to get tested for security standards. Major retailers like Best Buy and Amazon have agreed to support the program and help educate consumers about the label. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
The first international commercial flight since the fall of former Syrian President Bashar Assad's government landed in Syria today. The Qatar Airways flight landed at Damascus International Airport. Syrian officials say Qatar helped renovate the airport, which suffered from years of neglect. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
Good afternoon. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News update as we're enjoying some sunny skies this afternoon and a chance of snow still coming for the weekend. I'll get to your weather forecast coming up in just a minute as the news this hour is brought to you by Edson Builders. Well, many contend that Utah, like the greater United States, is facing an energy crisis, and the fast development and expansion of artificial intelligence could make that problem even worse. It's estimated that AI data centers will require 14 gigawatts of new power capacity by the year 2030, and estimates show that 1 gigawatt alone is enough energy to power about 750,000 homes. Now, late last year, Governor Spencer Cox announced Operation Gigawatt. It's an initiative that he says will double Utah's energy production over the next decade. Now, the main goals of the initiative are to increase transmission capacity, expand and develop more energy production, while also enhancing Utah's policies and investing in Utah research. Cox says the bottom line is that the state needs more power.
We've looked at the future and where we're headed. We've made a determination that we have to do something bold. We have to change the way we develop power in the state of Utah. And we're so fortunate to live in a state where we have these opportunities.
Now, coal fuels almost 50% of Utah's total electricity net generation, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, with natural gas accounting for about 34% and the rest primarily coming from renewable energy. Now, Cox and others want to also diversify the state's energy portfolio and bring nuclear and geothermal power into the mix. But opponents of nuclear power say it is expensive and dangerous. Now, while nuclear power has a smaller footprint and is a zero-emissions energy source, the Utah Office of Energy Development's Deputy Director, Dusty Monks, says that getting nuclear power to Utah could be a long and complicated challenge. The state does not currently have a nuclear reactor at a commercial scale.
So we need to make sure that we have a policy pathway, policies that allow for it, that we align with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that we're not an obstacle, but we're in line with. And then as we talk about energy, nuclear, we actually need to deploy a project.
Now, Monk says that his office will be bringing local, regional, and national resources over the next year to consider what would be required to build a nuclear project in the Beehive State. Well, coming up, a national touring troupe is visiting Logan later this month. I'll tell you about the Aluminum Show coming up in just a minute as we check your weather on the 6s, brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry, calling for more sunny skies over the next several days, as we'll continue to see mostly clear skies the rest of the evening, as temperatures have been in the mid-30s today. Tonight will drop into the low teens and then be back into the low 30s for tomorrow. Same for Thursday and Friday, and a chance of snow coming for Saturday and Sunday. Well, the first national touring attraction of the new year at the Ellen Eccles Theater will be the Aluminum Show, coming up on January 27th. Now, sponsored by the Cache Valley Center for the Arts, the new and unique Aluminum Show will bring together an unlikely mix of materials, music, and artists to the Cache Valley stage. Now, through the use of special effects, creative mechanics, and acrobatic dance, their collaborative vision brings inanimate objects to life with energy, emotion, and even a little bit of personality. The Aluminum Show is the brainchild of 3 Israelis. Now, according to Wendy Hassan, the Cache Arts executive director, the show is suitable for all ages and languages. And a bizarre story out of West Valley City where a man is accused of breaking into an apartment naked and trashing the kitchen area, later telling police that he planned on killing 5 of the occupants. West Valley police were dispatched to the apartment early yesterday morning around 1:30 after receiving reports of a burglary in progress. The complainant said the unknown man, later identified as 60-year-old Octavio William Higuereta Ramirez, had broken into the apartment, which was occupied by a total of 5 adults and 4 children. Higuereta Ramirez reportedly was naked. And inside the apartment, the complainant told police that he began throwing items around the kitchen. And when police arrived at the scene, they found the man still naked with the kitchen covered in broken glass and scattered food. Now, the suspect later told police that he had heard voices and planned to kill some of the residents. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. Remember Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer saying talk of President Biden's decline was right-wing propaganda? The party faces growing questions about whether it misled Americans. Also, old tax documents and property records. How long before we can throw them out? And preparing your home for a blast of extreme cold. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM. Online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It's Tuesday, January 7th. I'm Jason Williams. Thank you for tuning in. Bill Walter, if you're out there, still miss you. Stan Summers retired. This is, I guess retired is an assumption on my part, but former Box Elder County Commissioner withdrew his name from a re-election bid. Stan was kind of famous, or I guess for some people infamous, but a fun guy, and we had him on the show a few times over the years. He would be the first to tell you he was not perfect. He had some moments. It was also at times he got a little more political, I think, than he really wanted to be with certain issues, speaking out. But he was fun. And that, I don't know, he was just entertaining to have on the show, very passionate about everything he did. But after 12 years, Box Elder County Commissioner Stan Summers decided to take a break, he said, as an elected official and concentrate on some other things. So that was earlier this year. He withdrew his name from his reelection bid. And this comes at a time when, I don't know, by the way, this was in April, but he just kind of didn't really say much about it. It came at a time when things were just really tense for Box Elder County. And I think a lot of folks were hoping that he would stick around. Well, CashValleyDaily.com's Rod Boehm had a chance to sit down and talk to him and read the full interview, because I won't be able to do it justice here unless I read the entire thing, and it's quite long. It would probably fill the hour. But this is a really interesting profile, not just of Summers himself and his time in office, but also of Box Elder County, what is happening in general with the growth in the county. We think it's bad here. Well, I mean, it is bad here. Well, bad's not the right word. Challenging. We'll put it that way. The growth is challenging. Where are all these people going to live? Where are they going to drive? We're struggling, I think, as a valley, as a county, and cities as well within the county. Everyone's kind of struggling to wrap their heads around all this. We've got to, instead of compartmentalizing things like transportation and housing and homelessness, we've got to start realizing, as you know, the Wasatch Front and Salt Lake counties had to do a decade ago, that these are all connected things, that drawing businesses in. That's also something that is connected to transportation and public transit as well. We're going to have to get serious about that if we want businesses to locate here so people have jobs here and we're not all driving through the canyon every day. So, you know, these are things that most people in government here in Cache Valley have wrapped their heads around previous, but I think the general citizenry at this point, we're struggling with it. We're also seeing a lot of change, a lot of things that maybe we have sentimental value disappearing. I talk often about this stretch of road that had two gigantic elm trees on it, and they've been there until 2 years ago. They were there my entire life. Even when I lived away for a bit for school, when I would come back. And one of the reasons I love these trees is they stood in a really unlikely spot in the middle of nowhere, these two gigantic trees. And that, of course, drew the hawks and the eagles. And you could watch these big birds of prey hunt out over the alfalfa fields and straw fields and cornfields around the area. And it was one of my favorite things. And a couple of years ago, a developer ripped them down, shredded them, and built a subdivision. I wasn't happy about that, but I recognize that, you know, these things are going to happen. Now, you know, we have to be smart about this. It can't just be growth for growth's sake. It can't be unplanned growth. I think we need to talk a lot more about building up instead of building out, so that we don't end up looking like and feeling like Syracuse one day. If you've ever driven through Syracuse, in fact, all our listeners should go do that one day. If you're headed along the Wasatch Front, just go try to drive east to west in Syracuse, or north to south. It's a short distance that will take you 50, 60 minutes, because the road planning and the development planning was just so bad in the 80s and the 90s when they were seeing massive growth, that it's just, you can't get anywhere in a pleasant way. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really is. If your daily commute is that annoying, no one wants to live there. And they're struggling with that. Businesses don't want to locate there because they don't want their employees to have to drive through that every day. So, you know, it seems unconnected, but it's not. When we talk about stoplights and stop signs, when we talk about roads and new roads, when we talk about road maintenance, when we talk about public transit, This is all connected as we grow to housing, to increases in homelessness here in the Valley, to our quality of life, to businesses staying here, starting here, staying here, or wanting to move here to provide jobs. This is all connected, and Box Elder County is seeing the same thing in a Box Elder County way. They're struggling with the same thing, but it's even more of a leap for Box Elder County. This isn't to say that they are behind us intellectually or in a civic way. No, it's just that it's what is sweeping through northern Utah in general. Hasn't really hit in Rich County, but it's hit in Box Elder County. It's hit in Cache County. And I think for the residents of Box Elder County, it is even more of a culture shock than it is here. And so with that in mind, now you have, city councils. We've spoken with the Tremonton City Council and city council members and mayor several times here on the show during their elections and otherwise, because they're dealing with a lot of this same stuff, and it's brand new to them. It's not completely brand new to us. Brand new to them, but it's hitting them at the same time and just as hard. And trying to wrap their heads around that and plan as fast as possible, but as thoroughly as possible, it's a pretty big challenge. So Summers mentions that. In his interview with Rod Bohm, he talks a lot about, what is happening in Box Elder County, the population explosion, the need to kind of update the county, high-speed internet access for pretty much, I believe the report I saw from Utopia and others was about 94% of the county. Box Elder County now has access to high-speed internet. That wasn't the case 5 years ago. I mean, we all take that for granted, right? We've all had access here in Cache Valley to high-speed internet since the early 2000s in most places in the Valley. But just 5 years ago, it was expanded outside of Brigham City to the rest of Box Elder County. They're talking, the state's first inland port that will actually be constructed is going to be there in Box Elder County and right on the edge of the Wild Bird Refuge. So, the concerns over that are legitimate. If we mess up those bird migratory patterns, our agriculture industry is in trouble. Tread carefully. That's an example of how we have to think about this growth. We've got to do it responsibly. But the point is, again, this is all hit Box Elder County kind of, I think for most residents I've spoken with, it's hit them at once. They feel like it. They feel like it's just, all these things have walloped them in the last year or so. Now, obviously, that's not the case. It's been slowly brewing for a decade, but it's just come to a point where these are, things that can't be ignored. City councils, the county, they're trying to wrap their heads around and plan for the best on this while it is actively happening to them. So Stan Summers talks about that a lot in the interview. He talks about his responsibilities. It seems like it's unrelated, but he talks about responsibilities as one of the board members of the Box Elder County Fair for years, which I maintain, no offense to Cache County, I maintain, just being honest, the Box Elder County Fair is the best fair in northern Utah, and it undeniably. Now they spend a lot more, and plan. It takes a lot more planning, but it is big. And so anyway, they've made a lot of advances in the county. But Summers talks about that, though, his work on the board of the Cache County, Box Elder County Fair Board, and he talks about how, how the changes in the county were kind of bubbling up there as well. They were talking about, so suddenly there was this need for a new rodeo grounds and bleachers. And they were talking about building two large buildings there at the fair park. Things that had never even really been necessary to even discuss before were now, not only do we need to do this, but we need to hurry and do this. And part of that was the county wanting to invest when they could, when things were cheapest to bond or whatever they might have to do. But also, it was recognizing a need, recognizing a public need, but also the fact that the county was no longer this sleepy kind of out of the way place that people kind of clipped a portion of on their way up through Cache Valley and on to Jackson Hole or Bear Lake or wherever. Or maybe just Cache Valley's the destination. Box Elder County was no longer that. It may not be known as a big tourist destination, the Wild Bird Refuge, the Golden Spike Park and surrounding monument out there. All of that's well known and does attract tourists, but Box Elder County, I don't think, saw itself at any point as experiencing the population boom at the same time, and then they did. On a completely related but bit of a tangent note, the legislature made the biggest mistake, I think, when they decided not to invest more money in expanding Front Runner up to Box Elder County. It would have opened up so many opportunities for the county. It would have opened up so many opportunities for people to live in Box Elder and work along the Wasatch Front or even Salt Lake. It would have, if they had done this far earlier than they planned to, it would have given them a couple more options for location of the state prison and all the jobs that would have brought in to Box Elder County. It was discussed, but transportation was one of the reasons it scratched off the list. That was just a few years ago. Now, with the inland port conversation, for example, they're looking at Box Elder County and saying, no problem. We can locate it there. And that shows you how much things have grown and changed from transportation options, though the legislature still hasn't okayed the money for Front Runner to go this far north to Brigham City. It's in the works, but it's still 10 years down the road, maybe 15. But there's still, Box Elder County is now kind of a player in the mix. And the inland port is going to be a big part of that. That's a lot of jobs, but also it means a lot of commerce and also a lot of additional traffic coming through Tremont and Box Elder County at large. So that's going to require some investments. Summers talks about all this. He talks about how it changed and how it kind of seemed to speed up a little bit over the last few years. It's the most unique perspective you'll find on what I think a lot of us here in Cache Valley have already acclimated to because it's been on us just a few years longer. But it's 2 years newer for Box Elder County, and give it a read. Again, the article and interview that Rod did with Stan Semmers is mainly focused on his career as an elected official for 12 years on the Box Elder County Commission and his decision to withdraw earlier this year and not run for re-election earlier in 2024. Sorry, not this year. And but it really encapsulates a lot of the growth and change that we're seeing, but takes it outside of our own experience here in Cache County and puts it somewhere new in Box Elder County. And, man, it is taking Box Elder County by storm. If you've driven through there recently, a lot of new stuff, mostly houses, subdivisions, apartment buildings, things like that. It's Northern Utah is changing, not just Cache Valley. Check it out. A great interview with Stan Semmers, now retired Box Elder County Commissioner Stan Semmers at CacheValleyDaily.com, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town on the corner of 5th East, 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
Reach the Sheriff's Department Civil Processing Division. Please hold where call is transferred to Sergeant David Chapman. Deputy record.
This is Sheriff Chad Jensen. Fraudulent phone calls similar to this one have been received by many citizens in Cache County. The most common scams are asking for payment over the phone because of a lawsuit, civil bench warrant, or to post bail for a family member who has supposedly been arrested. They ask for payment in form of prepaid cards, gift cards, or money transfers, and if you do not pay, they threaten to arrest you. The Sheriff's Office does not take payment or ask for personal information over the phone. These types of scams often use internet phone numbers which are nearly impossible to track. If you receive a phone call of this nature, do not give out any personal information and hang up. Be cautious about the information you give out over the phone to make sure you are not the next victim of a scam.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? Amid the chaos? Or is the best time perhaps today. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships.
And the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, we've got a really interesting preview of this week's episode of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas. Again, our listeners get a sneak peek. You can listen to the whole thing after the show at sutherlandinstitute.org. Just click on Defending Ideas. They post the video and the audio of their discussions each week. But it is a conservative think tank in Salt Lake, Sutherland Institute. They're attempting each week to start a conversation. Now, obviously, they're a policy shop. They have an agenda. They have ideas they're trying to push. But they also want to get people thinking and discussing these things. And by the way, I think they're going to have an opportunity. Well, we'll see if they take that on again. It was difficult for them when they did before. But the immigration bills unveiled yesterday that we talked about on the show, a bit hardline. And Sutherland, we'll see if Sutherland does what they did back in 2011 and takes a kind of a softer position, swaying the legislature away from some of this. But we'll see. Either way, I say that just to kind of give you an idea of what Sutherland's all about. And every week they let our listeners get a little sneak preview of their Defending Ideas discussion. And coming up at 5 o'clock, it's one that, this has kind of been done to death, but Sutherland, recognizing that, took a unique approach. The idea is the social safety net and work. At what point does or can, assistance, aid, that is very necessary in some situations. The whole point of a safety net is to stop people from hitting the real bottom, right? And then to help them get back on their feet. And it works. But the argument often from conservatives is that it can create dependency, or that there are actual disincentives for some people to go back to work or to find work. On the left, people will say, you don't have a lot of evidence for that, which is true. And what is the other option? We should just fund the programs better. And those two ideas have butted heads since the 1950s, since the social safety net really took off after, a little bit was put in place during the New Deal, FDR. A lot was put in place by New Deal and the FDR. It really hit its stride in the 50s, 60s, and even 70s, this idea of a social safety net. And then we've argued about it ever since. So Sutherland picks up that tired old argument today, but they take a different approach. They sat down with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Alex Reuter. And he's the Community and Economic Development Director and Principal Advisor at Atlanta Bank. And he specializes in workforce development topics. And so they take a different approach to this. They take the approach of what's called the benefits cliff, which is when someone, it maxes out on time you can be on some sort of safety net program or not. What happens to them then? And this is one of my criticisms of the left, by the way. I agree more with what the left is saying. I think the idea that there is very little evidence that the safety net programs really do much to disincentivize going back to work. Most people, the data holds up, want to go back to work when they can. And if you actually make it easier for them to go back to work, they'll do it faster. So we should focus on that. And that's pretty solid evidence in favor of that argument. And so the argument coming from the left, I'm more sympathetic to, because their argument is basically, what's the alternative? You're just going to let people fall? Well, I don't think we should do that. But I get frustrated because when you listen to those on the left, there's this idea that there's no bad to it. But things like benefit cliffs are really bad. When a person hasn't been able to get back to work yet, and yet the benefits click off 1 month, you just forget they exist. You just leave them. And the idea that, now I do think here in Utah especially, we underfund some of these programs, and that's why they don't work as well as they could. And we've never tried the opposite in my lifetime. At the same time, the idea that you could just forever, endlessly throw money at these programs is unrealistic too. And I get frustrated with both sides for the oversimplistic takes, almost intentionally oversimplistic takes, like it's being dumbed down just so that candidates can fundraise off of it every 2 years instead of actually doing something productive. So that's what they attempt to do today. We'll get to that episode at the top of the hour with Nick Dunn sitting down with, this is a unique opportunity. Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Alex Reuter is the guest on Defending Ideas coming up at 5 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. A quick programming note as well. Boys basketball tonight. Yes, Logan is at Weber State tonight. Tip-off is at 7, and so we are going to be broadcasting and live streaming this. A lot of people have asked where it's not here. Yes, Logan Grizzlies will take on the Weber Warriors tonight in boys basketball at 7 p.m. Live broadcast starts here on KVNU 102.1 FM and 610 a.m. at 6:50 roughly. And the video live stream will be at cachevalleydaily.com. So again, Logan at Weber State, boys basketball tonight at 7. Live broadcast starts here on KVNU at 6:50, and live stream of the video at cachevalleydaily.com. And sit tight. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Once a major critic of Donald Trump, Utah Governor Spencer Cox says he'll now be traveling to Florida to meet with the president-elect ahead of the upcoming inauguration. Cox said he'll be joining other Republican governors in a Mar-a-Lago visit with Trump, who is set to return to office on January 20th. Now, over the summer, Cox had surprised many when he endorsed Trump following an assassination attempt on the former president's life. The announcement came just weeks after the governor had said that he wouldn't be voting for Trump in the 2024 presidential election. Now, at the time, Cox acknowledged previous disagreements with Trump, but in a letter to the former president, the governor expressed hope that the attempt on his life would give him the opportunity to do something that no other person on earth could do right now, and that is unify and save the country. Well, Ogden-Hinckley Airport is broken ground on a new terminal entrance that'll expand the pickup and drop-off areas and move the baggage claim indoors. It's set to be completed sometime in October of this year and will cost around $4.4 million, according to Ogden's city mayor, Ben Nadolski. Now, according to Nadolski, the project gave the city the opportunity to rebuild trust with the community. Over the last several years, the airport has had its share of problems, including safety and financial troubles. In the last decade, there have been several airplane crashes, the last one happening in July. Although the crash did not happen at the airport, Airport Director Brian Conde said that by summertime, they will be repaving and repainting the runway. Now, the airport has also faced some financial issues. Back in April, the state legislature released an audit that found that the airport had been losing money ever since the year 2006. And we're counting down to Aggie basketball as Utah State at San Jose to take on the Spartans coming up tonight for a late game. They'll be tipping off at 8 o'clock. Our pregame show beginning at 6 here on KVNU with J.D. Walker and Stockton Jukes. Now, earlier, before the team left for California, head coach Jared Calhoun says even though the Spartans are coming into this game with only 7 wins and 9 losses, that record is deceiving.
First and foremost, San Jose is a really, really good team. They've been in some barn burner games at the Pit, Boise at home. Their record's very, very misleading. They got a lot of guards that can play. Good team. Obviously got a ton of respect for Coach Miles and very, very quick turnaround. So it's really mental the next 2 days that we understand we got to turn the page, totally different game plan, and just lock in on certain things that we got to be good at. And on the road, that's rebound.
Michelle Franzen. In Southern California, a brush fire has erupted in the Pacific Palisades near President Jimmy Carter shifted from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. today, his casket lying in state at the U.S. Capitol until Thursday's funeral. A judge today rejected a motion by Donald Trump's attorneys to delay sentencing hearing in the hush money trial. A hearing is set for this Friday. This is ABC News.
$12 for Cardall's insulation.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. A better than expected job and business report pulled the market lower. A $3.7 billion visual content company. Meta shares fell after CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced an end to the company's third-party fact-checking. Users will now instead be tasked with curbing misinformation on Facebook and Instagram. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
It's the biggest travel show of the year, the Morris Columbus Travel Expo, with over 100 travel vendors, airlines, cruise lines, resorts, and tour companies, including Royal Caribbean. Join us for exclusive discounts, information seminars, and hourly prize drawings. Friday and Saturday, January 24th and 25th at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Tickets at utahtravelexpo.com.
Morris Columbus.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes late at night, I lie awake and watch her sleeping.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People.
She's lost in peaceful dreams, so I turn
Big
out
correction here on my part. I apologize. I read wrong. The Logan boys basketball game will not broadcast here on KVNU tonight. It will live stream, video stream at CashValleyDaily.com, as I announced, but it will not broadcast here on KVNU this evening because there is a USU men's basketball game. So Aggies back on the road. Utah men's basketball is next Mountain West Conference game. And so the Aggies will take on San Jose State tonight. And that game is set to tip off at 8 o'clock. And, of course, we'll be broadcasting that. So correction on my part. Sorry to our listeners. So the Logan at Weber State, or excuse me, I'm confusing Logan at Weber, not Weber State, boys basketball. high school basketball game will live stream on CashValleyDaily.com starting at 7. But here on KVNU tonight, I'd said that we would be broadcasting that game because we usually do. The Logan High games, we won't. So that won't broadcast here on KVNU tonight because Aggies men's basketball starting at 8 o'clock. Again, Aggies down there in San Jose. So correction on my part. Apologize for the confusion. And that's what I get for not looking at the Aggie schedule more closely. UDOT out with some preliminary data today. There will be a full report later on. This usually hits just before or within the first week or two of the legislative session. But Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cam Roden, serving as a de facto spokesperson today when this data was released, said they wanted to get some of this out because there was a public safety interest behind some of the numbers they saw in 2024 when it came to road safety. So UDOT, working with Utah Department of Public Safety, puts this together every year. And here's the short and sweet of it. Let's back up just a little bit. Remember last year, one of the big concerns last year when this report was released and the press conference took place, the big concern was this significant increase in road rage incidents and incidents that are related to road rage in that they imply aggressive driving. So last year at this time, the report showed a almost 25% increase in citations for following too closely, for driving erratically, for speeds in excess of 20 miles over the speed limit. Just a huge increase in citations in 2023 for that. So when the report came out early 2024, there was concern. And also more citations for road rage than ever before in Utah's history. And also road rage incidents that were reported in which they could never catch anyone, so no citations were issued. That remains a concern this year. The increase was small, but over 2023 in 2024, but 2023 was about a 23% jump from 2022 and pretty much the 2 decades before that. So something happened. I don't know what. And it really showed up in 2023, and then it's just stayed high. So road rage is still really frequent in Utah. And by the way, this data, in contrast with other states, Rodden said, we're outpacing other states. To put that another way, something's going on in Utah on our roads. And it's leading to an increase in aggressive driving, angry drivers, inconsiderate drivers, and road rage incidents, some that have turned deadly over the years. This is unfortunate and kind of flies in the face of the way we all like to think about ourselves and our culture here in Utah, right? Imagine someone coming here as a tourist and experiencing this, and then leaving and telling their family, whoa, don't drive in Utah. I've struggled with this myself. I have a pet peeve, which is people hanging out in what is supposed to be the faster lane because they're going to be turning left in 3 miles. I don't know if they just don't teach this in driver's ed anymore, that you shouldn't do that because it completely messes up the flow of traffic for everyone. Anyway, I get angry about that. And at times I've lost my temper. I've kept it to myself, but I've lost my temper inside my own vehicle and then thought, do you really care that much? So, all of us, I think, have been there. But we're talking about incidents where it's escalated to, some of the stories, people getting out of their vehicles and getting into fistfights in the emergency lane of I-15. Grown men doing this. A teenager that was shoved to the ground and subsequently taken to the hospital with a head injury by a grown man in a road rage incident. No details on who was at fault or who triggered the rage or, who was the person in the wrong in this situation. But we're talking about a 17-year-old kid that was shoved to the ground by a grown man, 43-year-old, got a head injury and ended up in the hospital. I mean, this is deep breaths, everybody. I know that it's stressful when you're driving and you're late for something, late for work, late for a wedding. late for, and take it from me, it'll be okay. I'm late for everything. But I realize, that there are situations where an inconsiderate driver sitting in what's supposed to be the faster lane, going under the speed limit, and a car right next to them, and they're just keeping pace for miles. That's extremely frustrating. And yes, that's very rude of the other driver. Putting someone's life at risk, though, is not justified by that. Putting your own life at risk is not justified by that. What it does to your blood pressure alone is not justified by that inconsiderate driver in front of you. Deep breaths. That's really all I can say. How did this manifest out, though, in overall traffic fatality data as well? Unfortunately, that also suggests that we have an aggressive driving problem here in Utah at large. It was only a slight increase, but the estimated number of people killed on Utah's roads in 2024 went up from 279 in 2023 to 281 in 2024. So not a huge increase, but an increase. One interesting bit of data in this, there was a 50, and I don't know at all, I have no guess even what might be behind this, although I'm inclined to believe it had something to do with education or a change in driver's ed classes. I don't know. But there was a 50% decline in 2024 of teenagers killed on Utah's roadways compared to 2023. Something went right there. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cam Rodden in the press conference today said, every life lost on our roads is a tragedy, and behind every statistic is a family forever changed. Reducing roadway fatalities requires us to drive with care, patience, commitment to making safety while behind the wheel a top priority. 1/3 of all the fatalities in Utah's roads were what Lieutenant Rodden called vulnerable road users. And that means motorcyclists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. So more than 160 pedestrians suffered serious injuries after being struck by vehicles in 2024 here in Utah. And an additional 43 pedestrians were killed in Utah last year. Those numbers, by the way, match recent years, but are actually down from one of the highest years of the last decade, 2022, but still ticking up slowly each year in the average. And 7 bicyclists were killed on Utah roadways in 2024. 53 motorcyclists were killed in 2024. That's a 15-year high, by the way, in Utah. And an additional 343 people on motorcycles were seriously injured, by the way. So, Jones said that overall the data marks an increase compared to previous years with a concentration of deaths during the summer months. That's expected, June through August. And most incidents were single vehicle crashes involving single riders, often attributed to speed or lack of protective gear or loss of control on the part of a motorcyclist. Weather, that also is included in the data and the analysis. Road conditions in 2024 did lead to more crashes in the wintertime than in 2023, according to the data. But summer months still had the most traffic fatalities. And that is, again, usually attributed to higher speeds during collisions, or higher speeds of the vehicles involved in collisions. And finally, UDOT and Department of Public Service Safety said that more than 1/3 of crash victims were not wearing seatbelts at the time of collision, and a significant number of lives could have been saved had they simply buckled up. I thought everyone was. I'm surprised by this. But Troy Peterson, UDOT Operations Director, said, reviewing the numbers every year, he said, we not only reflect on the lost lives, but seek ways to improve here at UDOT, working with the Department of Public Safety. All these crashes are preventable, every single one of them. We are responsible for prioritizing safety and protecting one another when we're behind the wheel on a motorcycle or on the bicycle. So here are the numbers as they break down specifically. 110 deaths related to drug and alcohol use in 2024 on Utah roadways, 78 deaths related to speed, 23 deaths related to aggressive driving or road rage incidents, 7 deaths related to drowsy driving, 22 deaths related to distracted driving, 69 deaths at intersections, well, not moving fast at all. 19 teenagers were killed in Utah in 2024 on Utah roadways, 35 deaths involving a teen driver, again, a 50% decrease from the year before. So we're doing something right with teen drivers. 40 deaths involving a senior driver, 34 seniors themselves killed behind the wheel on Utah roadways. Well, on Utah roadways, some were pedestrians, unfortunately. 8 of those 34 were walking when they were killed. 6 people were killed in work zones this year, or 2024 in Utah. Slow down in those work zones. There's a reason they reduced those speed limits. 43 deaths in Utah in 2024 involved commercial vehicles, and there were only 2 public transit system deaths in all of 2024. Though there were 4 deaths attributed to railroad crossings, only 2 of them tied directly to a collision. I'm not sure what that means or how that breaks down. And finally, 122 roadway departure deaths, people losing control and leaving the roadway, and a total of 50 deaths in 2024 on Utah roadways on what are known as high-risk rural roads. There you have it. The preliminary data of 2024's Utah roadway deaths. If you want to see it, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. A fuller analysis will be out just as the legislative session gets underway, and they usually put some visualizations in there as well and tie it in with trends of the previous years as a way to inform lawmakers who will be crafting a budget, and UDOT will be asking for public safety money as they do every year. Maybe a little bit more this year, although I don't know how you prevent road rage, and that seems to be what is going up the fastest here in Utah. Check it out. Link on the Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU. Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Are you on your feet a lot? When traveling, do you find yourself sitting for long periods of time? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical, and we have compression stockings that can help you. Our compression stockings are designed to improve circulation, reduce swelling, and provide unmatched comfort. Come check out all the different styles and fabrics. These aren't your great-grandparents' compression stockings. That's why we're excited to offer an amazing deal. Buy 3 pairs of compression stockings and get a free care kit. That's right, 3 pairs of compression stockings and get a free care kit. Come into any of our 11 locations and invest in your health this winter by embracing the benefits of compression. For more details, visit us at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Senior Moments. Sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group on News Talk KVNU.
My name is Bruce Lee. I am here with my co-host Sid Roeder. We're here for another fun show.
This radio show is sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group, which is a group of professionals that has dedicated their time and efforts to provide information that is hopefully useful to seniors, their family members, caretakers, and really anybody who's interested.
Senior Moments, every Saturday morning at 7:30 right here on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. if you've been in Salt Lake City and noticed, I don't know how you could miss it, but the work going on at the Salt Lake Temple, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Temple in Salt Lake, covered with scaffolding and weird-looking machinery and pulleys and ropes and everything for a while now, about 3 years actually. It is done, apparently. But what they did is really cool. If you're, and you don't even have to be into architecture and construction to find this cool. It's basically they drilled holes all the way down, almost 50 of them, through these, basically granite walls. And they had to go from the top on each corner of all the towers there at the Salt Lake Temple and all the way down. They apparently used diamond-edge drill bits for this. The full story and details at CashValleyDaily.com. But it's really fascinating, actually, how they go about doing this. Because obviously, drilling through, you run the risk of, toppling something or actually damaging something worse than it was the intent, obviously, which is no damage. The drill rods that they send down with these diamond-edge drills are threaded and connect. They form what's called a drill string. And then with cranes holding these drills, they carefully hold them in place. And in the end, they cut more than 2.5 miles of stone cores. This is all part of just shoring things up for the future.